Today we're going to talk about how churches die. That sounds like a pretty negative way to start, but don't worry. What we're talking about is the way that all things die. We're talking about the cycles of death. And you can tell because I've got marbles and a Red Bull sitting on the table. This is a spoon. We'll get to that in a second. I want to say, even if you feel like, I don't care how churches die, this is the way that everything dies. The thing that can infect and kill churches, it's probably the same thing that killed your favorite band. It's this thing that kills companies and countries. Everything that involves human beings follows these steps if it's not kept up. And when I say that it kills churches, I don't just mean churches like the church that's by the gas station on the crossroads that has a sign up there. The word church, as used by Swedenborg, is something that occurs fractally across the human race. So you've got a little church in you. All of your spiritual progress that you have, the things that you're learning, the things that you believe, that's a little church in you. And you gotta not let that thing die. Yes, there are organizations that are churches among many people that follows the same pattern, but even the whole human race has these eras of spiritual understanding and eras of motivation, religious epochs for the human race, and those can crash and burn in this very same way. So the lesson that you learn here today is one that you can use everywhere for everything all the time. In general, things like churches don't die because of the passage of time, but they die because of the passage of states. And it's about the balance between love and faith. Swedenborg wrote in Secrets of Heaven 29:10, "A church's end comes when no more neighborly love remains." You thought I was going to say when church attendance goes down, or when they stop sticking to the doctrine, when no more neighborly love remains. That's a problem that can happen, but it doesn't happen all at once, and it's gradual. You slowly lose the balance between love and faith and what that does to the human beings that participate in your church. So let's look at how this progress or degress, going down this, happens using the analogy or correspondence of the seasons, how just like we move temperature and light, churches move in variations of love and faith. When a church first starts out, everything is great. Of course everything is great, because otherwise the church would never go anywhere. You'd never hear about it. But all religious movement, you think about the first days of Christianity, for example. How did that thing go from a few people to spreading across the entire world? Because it starts in this state of joy and love. So the church is what it is because it's got love. Let's say the Red Bull is love. And it's got truth or doctrine. Say the white frame is doctrine. When it has those things together, it's like when you're outside and there's a bunch of light and there's a bunch of heat and everything grows. So when you got this set up and the people that start to come into this thing, when you come into the church, the love is what pulls you into the center. The ideas are great and they're providing the framework, but it's just like everybody is pulled in by love. Not that guy. There you go. We're all in the middle. We're in this community because we love each other. We love each other. We love God. We love the idea. Like, this is so great. I can feel that there's love coming from God. I can see that this thing is going to make the world better. What I want to do is make the world better. That's why I'm in this. That's what rolled me into this thing in the first place. That's when the love is what's driving it. The ideas are there, and that's fine. We like them, but that's not why it's not what magnetized us into this. We're in it because we think this is a means by which we can do good. The ideas are a means by which we can do good. This is the spoon of disagreements. Bum, bum, bum. When disagreements come up, or there's just the regular friction and attrition of life when you're clashing and doing things together in a movement, and that stirs you up, the love keeps you together. Because the love always pulls you back. Even if you're far apart on an issue, the love pulls you back in. The love is what organizes it. And the love is what keeps the thing focused on doing good. It is a force for good in the world because it is steered by love. By the way, God is love. So this is when God has direct control over the thing. This is how Swedenborg puts it in Secrets of Heaven. This is the situation with churches. In the beginning, love for others forms their foundation. At that stage, each person loves the next as a sister or brother, and they all seek what is good, not for their own sake, but for the sake of their neighbor, the common welfare, the Lord's kingdom, and above all, the Lord. That's what I'm excited about being in this thing, because I'm going to be able to serve these people. I'm going to be able to serve the common welfare, what God wants to do in the world. That's what's keeping us in there. But that's not the only thing that can be bringing people together. You can still have a church when this is not the dynamic anymore. Again, with Secrets of Heaven, there are two things that bring the people of the church together. Life, which is the love side of it, and theology, which is the truth side. When the way they live their lives brings them together, theology does not divide them. Like I said, you can be pretty far apart theologically. You have different ideas about what's true, but because you're both guided by love, that doesn't pull you apart. You still are a one, even if you got some differing ideas. If theology alone brings them together, as it does in the church today, this is Swedenborg talking about the Christian church in the 1700s, they part ways and form as many sects as theologies. And obviously you see this throughout history. How many different Christian denominations are there? Do you know? Of course you don't. Because there's a million billion. There's also multiple sects in Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism. You name me a religion, it's got different groupings of people that are divided by theology. So what causes theology to divide people is this. Evidence that people separate if theology alone unites them is the fact that adherents of one doctrine condemn others, sometimes even damning them to hell. And listen, man, people say that about me all the time here on social media. I say, because you are teaching these ideas that are not in agreement with my doctrine, I know you're going to hell. One time I was in this megachurch. There's one up the road from me, and I was like, I'm going to go visit this thing. And the guy in the front, the pastor of this successful megachurch, was talking about Rob Bell. You guys remember Rob Bell? I'm trying to enunciate Rob Bell. You guys remember that? And he said that there's no hell, and nobody ends up going to hell. And this guy in the front of the megachurch, he said it was that was a big thing at the time, and he was like, well, Rob Bell says there's no hell, but he'll find out. And everyone's like, ah, ha, ha, ha. I'm not here to say whether or not hell exists. I mean, Swedenborg obviously gives this description of hell that does exist, but it's different than the traditional Christian concept. That's for another time. The fact that everyone's just like, you're going to hell. You're going to what they believe is eternal torture, or people are going to come and yell at us online and say, you're going to hell for the... That's a sign. That's like a big red flag. Charity has left the building. It's not there anymore. And when charity exits, when you're not in the church thing because you love your fellow churchgoers, but also the human race, the common welfare, the Lord, and every person he's created, it starts to move you out of that spring and summer phase into the church's fall. So the next stage the churches go through is fall. And when I said fall at the end of last segment, I was like, should I have said autumn? So people know I don't mean the fall like Adam and Eve. But I feel like when I'm saying autumn, who do I think I am? So we're in fall, and you might say, well, there's still a church. It looks like there's still a same church. These people are grouped together, and they have some cohesion. But the difference is, like in fall, the heat, the temperature has started to go down. So no longer is it love that's bringing everyone together, though there's much less love anyway. And what's really keeping people where they are is the doctrine. That's what's gathering them. And at first, it might seem like it's no problem. We got these ideas, we agree on them, so here we are in the center. But people who say that obviously forgot about the spoon of disagreement. This is when people in the church, they're bickering with each other. They come up against other groups or other churches. When you don't have that love anymore, disagreements start to come up. This is what happens. You're all over the place. Now, that doesn't mean you're out of here. There is this sort of doctrinal box and the desire to not appear unhinged, and so that keeps people from going too far away. You can still say you have a church here. There's not love keeping everything together. People start to bicker, they start to have infighting, and it's the beginning of the end. Swedenborg puts it this way: over time, though, neighborly love starts to cool and disappear. Later comes the hatred of one individual for another. People do not display hatred outwardly because they live in polite society, under the rule of law, bound by outward restraints, but still they cherish it inside. The outward restraints that bind them come of self-love and materialism and consist of a love for position and prominence, for wealth, and so for power, and accordingly for their own reputation. Their hatred for their neighbor hides under these types of love. By its nature, it longs to control everyone and to own anything that belongs to anyone else. That is in everybody potentially. I want to control everything. I want all your stuff. That's what Swedenborg would call the devil that exists inside each person. So the incredible thing that the church does, especially the church when you got the Red Bull of love going on, is it works against that nature. It gives us something else to gather around. We love each other, and that's what's driving us. That's when God really gets to have things go the way he wants to go. But when the love goes, everybody barely can hold it together. But we haven't even gone as low as we can go, because this can persist for a while, and people can be kept by these restraints into being okay. But at a certain point, even this goes away. Oh, hey, hope you're enjoying the show. Did you notice during the show that I will read some amazing bit of wisdom, and then it will say, Secrets of Heaven, number da-da-da-da-da. Well, that's from this. Oh, this is upside down. Let's do it again. This is this book series, Secrets of Heaven. And you can have this. It's not just for me. You can have this series of books right now for half of the regular cost. We have a special thank you code exclusively for you, Off the Left Eye viewers, so that if you enter it on our website, everything in your cart will be 50% off. Just enter the code OTLE50OFF at Swedenborg.com for 50% off. There's a link in the description and the code in there. And if you do that, not only do you get half price everything, but you get 1 month free access to our community membership, which is where we do live Q&A, we do hangouts. You can ask me questions and other people on staff. And everything you buy supports the nonprofit Swedenborg Foundation, which includes this programming. So again, OTLE50OFF at checkout at Swedenborg.com. You can, for yourself, dig deep into the source material, learn the secrets of heaven. Okay, back to the show. When you get to winter, just like the plants are dead in winter, the church is dead. There may still be buildings, there may still be people going to those buildings, but there's no love in it. It's completely lost its way. It's not about, there's nothing holding it together. There's some ideas, but even those start to fall under the constant pressure of the ego pushing them out. Even if you have people that are kind of grouped together by like a cultural identity, you know what's going to happen. When the spoon of disagreement shows up, when something shakes that, when there's some kind of lack, or there's another group they don't like, who knows what it is, there's nothing holding them together. And when that hits, chaos. A little vision of what the human race would be like without God leading us. Swedenborg puts it this way: when people's love for wealth and power is attacked, they store up in their heart a contempt for the neighbor who attacked it, yearn for revenge, revel in that other's ruin, and even inflict cruelty on the person so far as they dare. This is what neighborly love eventually turns into in the church when its end is at hand. Then it is said to have no more faith, because where love for others is lacking, so is faith. You may hear words that sound like faith. People will still talk about God. People will still talk about their religious texts, but there's no love coming out. It's actually just your own ego narcissism using that religious stuff to try to pursue its quest, which is for power and wealth and the subjugation of other people. It's just become the shell of a church. Swedenborg, when he was living in the 1700s, he claimed the Christian church in his day was dead or on its very last legs. Not that there weren't people doing church. There was churches everywhere. It was almost a theocracy. There was a lot. He couldn't publish his books in Sweden because the church and state were one. He had to go to London and Amsterdam and publish there. So there was a bunch of people being church, but what was gone was the love. It was people who were using religious teachings to be cruel. It was people who did not care about each other. It was people who were not regenerating, trying to look at the negative things inside themselves to get rid of it. The church was dead. But the good news is, spring comes back around again. God always finds a way to bring things back to life or bring to life the next thing. You didn't think we're going to end it there, did you? On that downer of a note? What happens after winter? Spring. There's always something good around the corner. The love comes back. When a church reaches its end and dies, though, the Lord always raises up a new one somewhere. Obviously, if we're talking about Christianity, it didn't go away. It's changed, and it's changing rapidly. And I think you look at the state of the human race, well, I think more now than ever, we're concerned about what's good and what's right and what's true and what's fair. That's the way you bring religion back to life, is refocus it on being good. Refocus it on this is about the reason we're here is we want to benefit the neighbor. You're here because you want to be a good person and because you believe that God wants what is good for conscious beings, that it's about love. And so all around the world, God plants these seeds with people. And it might be small for a little while, but slowly starts to build up, and we get something, not just a return. People talk about the decline of religion in the West. It's not just like a return to where it was, but it's going to be better. Because what we haven't had for a long time is a church that was really alive. I'm talking about springtime, the flowers are out, the birds are chirping. We're ready to start a new church.